What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Spring Football Report. I am your host, Phillip Jordan, in-studio host and producer of Festival Football on 96.9 The Legend, the host of the Phillip Jordan Show over at Wiregrass Daily News, Auburn Rider, last word on college football. That's right, the Spring Football Report is back for another episode. Didn't have one last week, and we were trying to go more Stallions related, but I decided to kind of go back to the full league thing that we were doing before. And mainly because of something I want to discuss at the end of the show that is actually not UFL related. It's arena football related. So we'll get into that later on the show. We have a fantastic show. I have a fantastic guest that will be joining me on this week's edition of the Spring Football Report. The voice of the Showboats, Eli Savoie, will be joining me in just a few minutes. Of course, you can listen to all the Showboats broadcasts over on News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. And you can listen to Eli Monday through Friday, 7 to 10 a.m. over on Sports 56. So Eli does a great job with all things Showboats, breaking it down. We'll do that with him. We'll talk about just kind of like what will Saturday look like for him before they play the Stallions. What's that whole routine like for him? His thoughts on the UFL, the merger. We're 5 weeks in. What is his thoughts there? We'll kind of get into head coach John DeFilippo there for Memphis, and also kind of what's been some of the issues with the team. A Case Cookus update, perhaps, and we will preview the Birmingham and Memphis matchup, the first matchup for the weekend in the UFL. Also, I just wanted to kind of start off to kind of get the show going. I'm not about to recap last week's games. You're listening to this on a Friday. I'm recording it on a Thursday. You guys know who won, who lost. I don't need to go through that. But I do want to just kind of just have a couple things I want to talk about or say before we jump in. And this will not go long. We're going to go jump into Eli because, we do this once a week, but when we do it, but also at the same time, I would like to keep it around 30, 35 minutes. So not too long. You have other podcasts you want to listen to. Please go search out. I told this before this. Stay the Stallions. Go listen to that. And plenty of other shows out there. The UFL podcast that's out there. There's a lot of great podcasts covering these leagues, not just the United Football League, the CFL, Arena Football. That's, a lot to talk about there anyways. And also indoor football, the National Arena League, all these leagues. Please go check it out. Please go check out all those other shows that are out there. Now, we're midway point, right? We're at the midway point of the season, and we're halfway done. It's really flown by. It really has. And when I look at the league right now, I see 3 contenders for the title. Be honest. In the XFL division, I think it's St. Louis and San Antonio. I'm going to say this, and maybe I'm being controversial. I think San Antonio is better with Quentin Dormady at quarterback than they were Chase Garbers. I fully believe that. Now, I do not think they're as good as St. Louis. St. Louis is a offensive juggernaut at times, just with all the receivers they have. A.J. McCarron, who's pretty much a coach on the field. DC 2 and 3, they're behind. Look, DC not being able to run the ball like they did last year has been a big thing. I don't necessarily think the losing your top receivers from last year is the biggest thing. I think it really is the running game. Abram Smith not being there. And Arlington, I did not think Arlington was going to be good. I thought San Antonio would be the worst team in the XFL division, if I'm being honest with you, going into the season. And I thought it would be St. Louis, DC, Arlington, and then San Antonio. But Arlington they've got talent. They've got, one of the all-timers in spring football at quarterback. But it's just not working with Arlington. I wonder if Bob Stoops will come back after this year, the way it's going, the way it's looking. And this is not going to be a playoff team, obviously. There's not going to be any miracle run. But, I wonder what's going to happen there with them. Birmingham, they're just good at everything. They're the best team. You look at any category, they are the best. Of course, last week beating Houston 32-9. I'm still against the rotating quarterbacks. If I would prefer Skip Holtz to just stick with Adrian Martinez, but he wants to keep going back and forth with him and Matt Corral. I guess luckily, if you look at the rotation, they will have Adrian Martinez in week 7 when they host St. Louis, which I'll be at that game. That is not this weekend, but the next weekend. So looking forward to that. Michigan's been a surprise to me. Obviously, a great defense. They could run the ball almost as good as anybody in the league. And it probably, well, Birmingham's number one, but what you got to like what Michigan do, defense and everything. And I think Danny Etling was good. He managed the game, which I don't really like using that term with quarterbacks, but he did. He did a good job at managing everything this past week. Memphis is a shock to me. The offensive line has been an issue. They don't quit. They continue to fight week in and week out. They love their coach. You can tell. We'll talk about that in a minute with Eli. And then Houston, look, going to the year, I didn't think that was going to be that good. I think they're better with Reed Sinnett at quarterback, obviously. So we'll just have to see how that's going to go for them. That's just kind of like my musing, my thoughts. But yeah, I think Michigan gets in the playoffs. I think we'll see Birmingham, Michigan. Right now, if I had to predict, the championship game will be Birmingham and St. Louis, which is kind of interesting because, of course, St. Louis is coming to Birmingham, not this weekend, but the next. And then we know the championship game is in St. Louis. So they'll both get to play on each other's home. That will, I tell you what, though, if we get that matchup in the championship game, that is going to be very interesting seeing Birmingham going into that environment because Birmingham could go undefeated 10-0. And then St. Louis has 2 losses, but St. Louis will be the home team there because it will be in their stadium. That will be intriguing seeing Birmingham go into a hostile environment to try to win a championship if that is the case, especially if they beat St. Louis in their week 7 matchup. So, plenty of ball left. We got 5 weeks, 6 weeks. You can count the playoffs. So, anyways, we're going to have a good run. I'm going to play my conversation I had with Eli Savoie for you right now. And then after that, I will give my picks and I'll just kind of give my 2 cents on everything that's going on with arena football. So, I hope you enjoy this conversation with Eli Savoie, the voice of the Memphis Showboats. Everybody joining me on the show. We're joined by the voice of the Memphis Showboats. You can check them out every morning, 7 to 10 a.m. over on Sports 56 there in Memphis. But as I said, he's also the voice of the Memphis Showboats. And Eli, I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know we had you on last year, talked about the Memphis show, but I think they were coming off a game against Birmingham last year when we chatted. This time they are playing against Birmingham this Saturday, 11 o'clock Central Time over on ABC. But for you, I'm always interested in the broadcast side of things, how it works and everything. What will Saturday look like for you on it from a broadcast standpoint?
Well, it's really I guess the hard work is all the week leading up to it and doing charts and getting everything ready for the game. It's a little easier this week because it's a team we've already played. The fact that we just played Birmingham, I already know players, things like that as far as that goes. So it's a little easier to put charts together. But then and Saturday will be get there early. I meet with Coach. I meet with Coach right when they get to the stadium. Kind of talk to him a little bit, go over any, if there's any questions about certain things that I have with him. And then from there, I just kind of hang out usually down on the field a little bit, chat with some players, kind of get an idea of what the feeling is, all that stuff. And then once we get half hour before the game, we go on with our pregame and we go from there. And hopefully this one goes a little bit better than the last trip, the trip down to Birmingham, because that did not go well for the Showboats.
Yeah, that was the first home game for the Birmingham Stallions at home that year. So it's going to be fun. Not a long trip for Birmingham, I know, heading over to Memphis. Just overall, obviously the UFL, the merger, everybody knows we're halfway through the season, the merger between USFL and XFL. What's been your overall thoughts on the league so far and then the whole merger business?
Well, certainly, I think, coming when all the news happened, certainly the most obvious thing that I think everybody thought was, wow, this is going to make the level of play that much better when you're taking a pool of 16 teams between the two leagues, and you're shrinking that down to 8. So you're taking the player pool down from 800 guys to 400 guys. It obviously improves the level of play, the depth of these teams. You started seeing then in training camp, I'm seeing guys who were like all USFL players who are getting cut and not even making teams now. And you're like, wow, like this shows how good this is. I looked at the Showboats roster and I was like, wow, like we have improved. It looks like a ton from last year because you're just weeding out some guys and putting in new guys in their place. So, but everybody did that. You know, you look at your roster, like, wow, we're way better. But then you go, well, everybody else did the same thing. So they're all way better as well. But, and I think it's lived up to that. I think the level of football is better than what it was in either the USFL or the XFL. I think it's been good football. You know, the unfortunate part of the league, the way it stands right now, is the fact that all of the teams are in Arlington and then they fly in and play their games and they fly right back out. It's you know, and fans, it's not great for fans. It's not great for the team. The team doesn't want to have to travel every single week. They would love to have 5 games in their backyard where they didn't have to take a trip, but it's just the way it is for this year. That's the unfortunate part of it. Hopefully down the road, next year, hopefully, or at least beyond that, they're able to get into the home markets, all of those things. But you know, I think overall the level of football's been good. Television wise, it's doing pretty good numbers. You know, the challenge the league is facing right now is getting fans to come out and support the teams in person. And it's tough. You know, it's just that's going to be a thing that you just got to build over time. And hopefully as the league does continue and the teams are in those cities year after year, they start building that following and the attendance numbers start to grow.
Yeah, because, you know, obviously the XFL teams were used to that last year. They were used to the Arlington hub. Mm-hmm. It was kind of business as usual for them flying into the city the day or two before the game. But last year, you know, especially like with Birmingham, Memphis, you know, Michigan, even Houston, even though it's a different mascot name, the Gamblers, now the Roughnecks. I do kind of wonder the lack of fan engagement during the week kind of hurts with the attendance. That's kind of one thing, especially with those teams, because you were used to seeing, I'm sure everybody, people and fans in Memphis were used to seeing certain players around. Same thing with Birmingham, Houston, Michigan. That's kind of one thing I do hope, and I think you're alluding to, maybe like in the future, these teams are stationed at their home cities. They're there. Because that's going to be a big part about getting fans out. It's just being in the city throughout the week, not just on game day.
Yeah, again, there's no doubt. You know, when you can see the team in town on a daily basis, whether they're practicing or you just see them somewhere like that, certainly because they're part of you. They're part of the community, so you feel much more of an attachment. Now, St. Louis is showing that it's not required to have that in order to draw fans to games. As you said, in the XFL, they did it last year. Now in the UFL, they're doing it again, but they're drawing, 30, 40,000 fans. So it's not required to have the team in the market full time for fans to buy in. St. Louis has bought in. Now it's, can these other teams kind of figure out what that St. Louis secret is that has made that connection work so good and start doing that? Again, maybe it's not 30 to 40,000, but can those numbers start getting up to 10, 15, 20,000 in some of these other markets? And then again, as it goes, you hope to continue to grow.
Yeah, and that is the hope. And like I said, St. Louis is just on a different level. I mean, which I know they feel really negative feelings for the NFL losing their football team. So they're saying, hey, we should still have a pro football team here. I know coming, and I'm honestly surprised Memphis's record 1-4. I came into the year looking at, okay, they got Case Cookers, and then and John DeFilippo did a great job last year with New Orleans coming in. What's been conversating with him when you get the chance to talk with him versus the coach staff from last year?
He's great. I mean, I love John DeFilippo. He's one of those guys that you root for, like if you're covering the team. I mean, because he cares deeply about it. He cares deeply for his players. I think he certainly is a really good football coach. I mean, he's been around the NFL for years, doing offensive coordinator, quarterback, whatever. I think he's a really good football coach. But he's he's a really nice guy. Like he is. From the get-go, from the day he got the job, he's just made himself available. So if I need to get a hold of him for something of, hey, getting ready for a game and I need to know what this guy's situation is he going to play, who started, whatever, I could text him and he's going to respond. Like he's very he's just very available, and I think that's great. And that's having a guy like him. That's one of the unfortunate things again of the team not being here, because I think if he was in the city full time, people would. And other people got to know him, and saw him and out, and he would be great. People would all really love him and root for him because they would see him out at a restaurant, and he would have no problem taking time to talk to somebody or whatever. He's just one of those guys, and so, but no, he's been fantastic, and he takes it really hard when they lose, and it's killing him that they're 1-4 right now, but. He's definitely, I think you saw last year with what he did with New Orleans. Certainly, I think he's a heck of a coach, and hopefully he can get things turned around here.
Yeah, you see that in the press conferences after the games, that how much he cares. I think you see that from the players too, because look, this past week they get down 19-0. They got within a score. Obviously, Michigan pulled away late, but still, this team, despite things may go wrong for them, even against St. Louis, we saw that. Things go wrong, and still there's no give up with this team. And that looks like it really is a reflection of their head coach.
Yeah, the thing is, every one of the players on this team loves playing for him, and I think that's it's killing them as much as it's killing him. This team they were so good for that first almost 2 games, and I think when it feels like none of them will say it, and because it almost sounds like it's an excuse or something, but that final minute against San Antonio and what happened there, it seems like they've never quite recovered from that. It's now part of that, you came out of that playing maybe the 2 best teams in the league. No doubt Birmingham is one of those 2 best teams, and then you followed that up by going to St. Louis. So you had 2 road games against what may be the 2 best teams in the league. So it was a difficult thing coming out of that game anyway. Then you had Michigan last week back at home, got off to the terrible start there with the turnovers early, dug themselves the big hole, and weren't able to dig themselves all the way out of it. But yeah, the mental side of it, that San Antonio final minute, I wonder, had they held on and won that game, would things be different going forward? Obviously, we'll never know, but certainly that was such a shocking way to lose a game. I think there was certainly some hangover to that.
Yeah, because you think about it, they would have been 2-0. And say if you do lose to Birmingham and St. Louis, still 2-2 mentally looks different than 1-3. Then you, of course, Michigan. What's the latest with the quarterback situation with Case Cookus? I know he didn't play last week, and then the week before against St. Louis, he got pulled. Is it going to be Troy Williams this weekend, or can we see Case Cookus, you think?
At this point, I do not know. I have not talked to Coach. I know he said in his media availability that they're right at this point they're just kind of monitoring and evaluating on Cookus health-wise where he is. He was cleared last week, so he could have played, but they elected to go with Troy Williams. And Troy, he got off to the bad start. He had the fumble on the first drive. He had an interception on a really was a bad throw. But after that, he kind of settled down and did some good things. So they have full confidence in either one of them. If I was guessing, I think it probably will be Troy Williams.
All right. So obviously, Birmingham getting into this game. And as you mentioned, you hope it, did not go the way Memphis won it last time, 33-14. Birmingham won there in Birmingham. Obviously, the sacks were a big thing in that one. 7-8 times Cookus gets sacked and all that stuff. Where have you, like the offensive line, where have you seen that group kind of improve? Because that was a big, I think, talking point coming out of that game. Offensive line play for Memphis. Have you seen that group improve since that contest?
They struggled again this past week. I think some of it, one of the things that they want to do is use running backs, tight ends, kind of chip a little bit on those to slow down the pass rush, but also it's on the quarterbacks to get rid of the football. They just don't. They felt in that first game like there were some times where the quarterback just was holding on to the football too long, and if it's not there, get rid of it. Just don't, because to not take the sack. So I think that will be a big part of it in this one, is to make sure that they're on time with those things, but also using tight ends, running backs, chipping a little bit. And that defensive front is really, really good. It's not easy to block them. There are some injuries on the offensive line as well, so they're not even at full strength. So I think they'll be trying to do a lot of quick passing in order to try and get rid of the football before they can get to the quarterback.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, Troy Williams, he plays really well against Michigan. You talk about the early mistakes. He threw the 2 interceptions with 3 touchdowns, 1937, 248, and having that running ability could be, like you said, key, being able to get away from that. I mean, Cookus has, I believe, some mobility, but obviously not to the level of Troy Williams. Just outside of the quarterbacks getting the ball out quickly, what else do you think could be key for Memphis on Saturday, going against that Birmingham defense to put some points on the board?
Well, they would love to get the running game going, but they really haven't. It's been a struggle all year long. Darius Victor is getting healthier, so that's helping as far as that is concerned. But in the end, I mean, they, on the outside, Jonathan Adams and Dawood Davis are playmakers at wide receiver. They've got to be able to get the ball in their hands and let them make plays. And then you kind of use Sage Surratt and Vinny Papali kind of in the middle of the field as possession type guys. But in the end, man, they want to, and they had a couple of chances in that first game where they had deep balls that were open and they just missed them. And that's kind of something that John DeFilippo's talked about all year that has really plagued them. When they had the opportunity to make that big play, they've just missed on it. And they can't, against a team like Birmingham, you can't afford to miss those because you're not going to get many opportunities. So when that guy is open on that deep pattern, you have to hit him. And in the first game, there were 2 of those, I think, both in the first half, if I remember correctly, where they had opportunities to hit deep balls, and the throw was the receiver was looking inside, the throw was outside, or the throw was just a little bit off target here or there, and they missed on them. And if they hit those, how is that game different? That's the thing. Like against a team like Birmingham, every single opportunity you get, you have to take advantage of it.
Flip on the other side, Memphis defense versus the Birmingham offense. Of course, Birmingham's playing a different quarterback. They're switching them out every other game. So I get this week would be Matt Corral week. Last time it was Adrian Martinez that Memphis saw. And, of course, Birmingham wants to run the ball. They have good receivers and everything like that. When you look at the Memphis defense, what do you see as a key for them to slow down the Birmingham offense?
Well, the thing they've talked about and all week, and they talked about it after the last game, is they have to keep the quarterback in the pocket with these, because Corral, although he's not as good a runner as Adrian Martinez, like he can also get out of there. And it wasn't even Martinez running the football in that first game. He was just extending plays and then making throws from outside the pocket. And he made some great throws, like they were on, but their whole focus going into that game, and they didn't feel like they did it, is keeping the quarterback in the pocket. Martinez is a great runner. We know that. We've seen that. If it is him, if it's Corral, he's a great runner too. But it's even beyond that. Like I said, it's the when he just extends the play, gets out of the pocket. Now it becomes a scramble drill, and they hit a big pass out of that. They had way too many explosive plays in that first game. And, they had trouble guarding Deion Kane. Martinez got out of the pocket too much. So those are the things, like that's the number one thing they have focused on and talked about constantly, is we absolutely, with our pass rush, cannot get past the quarterback. We have to keep him in the pocket and be able to because if he gets outside of containment, then we're in a whole bunch of trouble.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting game. I feel like it's going to be a different game than it was last time. I feel like that. I feel like it was that way last year when the two teams.
Well, last year down at Birmingham went as bad as it could go. We lost 42-2 down there, and then they came back. And the game here, the last game of the season, it went down to the final minutes. They scored a touchdown. I believe it was with like 4 or 5 minutes to go to win the game. So yeah, and last year the road versus home was a completely different thing. For the Showboats' sake, they're hoping that's going to be the case again this year. After the game here last year, now he's not there anymore, but Alex Magoo, some of the other guys were putting on the little captain's hats that our fans like to wear here. They were kind of doing some things. So kind of created a little bit of animosity for some of those returning players that are back this year. I'm sure they remember that. The fans certainly remember some of that stuff too. So it kind of develops a little bit of a rivalry. And so, yeah, I certainly think Memphis will perform better here in front of the home fans. That was a little bit of a trap walking into their home opener where they're unveiling the championship banner and everything else. Like the Showboats kind of walked into a trap in that one. I think it certainly will be a better performance this year or this week. Now, that may not mean a win, certainly. I mean, nobody seems to know how to beat the Showboats, but at least hopefully can make it a really competitive game and give themselves that opportunity.
Yeah, so hey, I just know from we see it college football all the time. Them 11 a.m. kickoffs can be tricky sometimes, especially when you go on the road. We'll see. Maybe Memphis probably maybe Birmingham's not quite awake yet, or all them other stuff. I have one more question for you, and I didn't prep you on this question. I was reading your bio online. It says you like Alabama, the group Alabama.
Yes.
I got to ask you, what if you got to listen to one song by Alabama? Where are you going with it?
Just one song?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's no question. It's Dixieland Delight.
Okay.
Dixieland Delight's like my favorite song of all time.
I'm big on Roll On. That's always been one of my.
Roll On is a great song. I love, like, they've got great. I mean, I've seen them live one time, and like, it's just amazing when you start going through their catalog, how many great songs they have that I love. But yeah, on my phone, on my all stuff, I've got a ton of Alabama songs. Roll On is on there. Dixieland Delight, Mountain Music. Like, I could go on and on. Song of the South. Like, I absolutely love Alabama and their music. And I was happy to get a chance. It was just a few years ago to finally get a chance to see them live, because I've always been a fan of Alabama.
Oh, yeah, they're great. They're great. I'll go to age myself. A lot of people don't believe I'm as old as I am. I don't know why. I'm 37. So one of my first cassettes I ever remember getting was that one would Roll On. So I guess that's always been my attachment, is that was the first one I got. That tape probably got damaged from how much I listened to it back in the day. So thankfully we have a lot of younger, younger audience listening to this or watching this. Are like, what are you talking about? Cassette tapes and all that kind of stuff. A lot back in the day. That's how it was.
Yeah, that is a foreign thing to them. They have no idea what you're talking about.
I like to sometimes just say, hey, I have a VCR still packed away somewhere. It's like, what is this to? So anyways, yeah, I love Alabama. And I saw that. And I said, I got to ask Eli about Alabama, because I know that's a mutual thing we have there. But Eli, I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun having you on talking Memphis Showboats. I appreciate you taking the time today. If the listeners, viewers want to check out online, where can they find you? And where can they check out if they want to listen to the broadcast?
The broadcasts here are locally on 98.9 FM. You can go to, I believe it's newstalk989.com for the online broadcast of that. My show that I do 7 to 10 in the mornings, that's on, you can find that online, sports56whbq.com. And we were online and on the everywhere else, on all the tune-ins and all of those other things. You can find us, social media, all that stuff. You can find the show there as well. So, but yeah, certainly appreciate it anytime. Always more than happy to talk a little Showboats football.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have to talk to you again to talk to other stuff. I mean, you guys cover everything there in Memphis. So I have to have you on, talk about all the other stuff you're covering there as well. But I appreciate you, Eli, and I look forward to talking again sometime down the road.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation I had with Eli Savoie, the voice of the Memphis Showboats. Great conversation talking with Eli about all things Memphis Showboats on there, and a little Alabama country music talk there at the end. Real quickly, just my picks for this weekend in the United Football League. On Saturday, as we mentioned here, Birmingham will be at Memphis. Birmingham's 5-0. Memphis is 1-4. 11 a.m. ABC. Birmingham, they are a 12-point favorite in this one. Got to go with the Stallions. I think that once again, the pressure up front is going to get to whoever's at quarterback. Troy Williams does give them a little something extra from the mobility side. Case Cookers can run too, but Troy Williams has a little bit more of it. But I think Birmingham's is going to be too much for Memphis. Houston 1-4 will be at St. Louis 4-1. 2 o'clock Fox. St. Louis is 10.5-point favorite. I think St. Louis is going to have a day here. This is probably a blowout in this one. I don't see Houston being able to stop that offense. On Sunday, Arlington 0-5 will be at Michigan 3-2, 12 o'clock Fox. Michigan is a 3.5 point favorite in this one. I think this game can be close. It can be a good game. This can be a winnable game for Arlington. If you're Memphis, you're rooting harder for Arlington to kind of keep yourself in the playoff hunt, especially if you're able to pull off an upset over Birmingham. But I'm gonna go with Michigan. I like their. You know what? Let's go back. No, I'm gonna scratch that. Scratch that thought. I'm gonna go with Arlington. Arlington gets off that goose egg on the win loss column. They're gonna get a win. They're gonna beat Michigan and drop Michigan 3-3. I think Michigan's probably gonna be 5-5 in the playoffs. They're a good running team, as I said in the open, and they're a good defensive team. The passing game is not really great with them. So I'm going to go with Arlington with the upset. Let's get a little risky on some picks. San Antonio 4-1 at DC 2-3. This is the best game on paper, I believe, this weekend. 3 o'clock Fox. San Antonio is a 1 point favorite. This is a huge game for DC if they want to remain in the playoff hunt. They win this, they're 3-3. They would be a game behind San Antonio. You lose, you're 2-4. They're 5-1. You're 3 games back. It's tough sledding to get caught back up, and then they'll have a game on you too as well. So DC's got to win this one. As I said, they don't have much for a run game. I'm going, but you know what? Let's go upset again. Let's go DC. Let's have some fun this weekend. Let's see if DC could come out on top. Before we got here, real quick, arena football. So I was very hesitant. Do I want to talk about this or not? And I really just want to say this about it. I was super excited over a year ago when they announced that the Arena Football League was coming back. I thought early on, I said, y'all were really pushing it to get within a year, maybe a 2-year buildup, and then 16 teams. And I had some doubts about it coming back. I thought, man, that's too much. Maybe 8 teams, get some legacy cities and teams coming in. But I'm still excited, and I love arena football. I used to talk to about people, and I get on their nerves. We don't care about this. We don't watch this. But I've always loved it. I have a box in this room I'm in where I record. There's a box I have. It's nothing but arena football memorabilia. A lot of media guides and some other stuff I have collected over the years. So I was super excited, especially when I found out the Orlando Predators were going to be part of that because Orlando is my favorite team. Albany Firebirds and all that. But then I started seeing some of the other cities. I'm like, man, these are, and no offense, but these are like smaller kind of indoor football league cities or even lower than indoor football league. So I had doubts once again. And then they announced the NFL Network was going to be broadcasting games. And I was looking at the TV schedule. I mean, we had weeks where there's 2 or 3 games being broadcast by the NFL Network. I was like, man, this is awesome. We're gonna have a lot of arena football to watch. So when the UFL ends, I'll have the AFL until the CFL gets going, and of course, then when college football gets going for me on my other stuff I do. But then you see, okay, the NFL Network games get pulled last week. So okay, what's going on here? This is not a good sign. And then I saw some of the pictures. There were some teams that the fields and everything looked like they're in Albany when they played Orlando. That looked like arena football. I watched that game on the streaming platform, and that was arena football. But then I see some of the other fields and the nets, and I said some people don't have the proper equipment, stuff like that. It's very bush league, in my opinion. It very is. Commissioner Lee Hutton's got to be ashamed of himself, and now you have games being moved. Some teams now have buys coming up this weekend. We've seen Iowa. Are they folding? Are they not? They're still going to be playing a game, but they put out this big press release discontinuing. They really took shots at the commissioner too, like verbal insults, and it's not good. I don't think this league makes it through the whole season. The NFL Network games are now pulled, so now you don't even have that. And the teams or businesses that had maybe bought some sponsorships on the boards, the teams that do have them. Obviously, they're thinking, okay, we're going to be on the NFL Network, advertise our business. Well, now that's not there. Um, I just don't see this sustaining, lasting. We have some good markets, and actually, I'm recording this on Thursday night. I just got done watching Nashville and Albany, and watching it, the field, everything, it looks like what arena football should look like. But we have all these other markets that just should not have had teams. I mean, it's just bad. Orlando, Albany, Nashville seem legit. There's some other ones too as well, not just those. But they, I just don't say. I just don't see this lasting past this year. If they get through this year, I don't think they will. I think I'll be interested how many teams are actually left standing and if the league even can get to a championship game. And again, repeat myself here, but I just don't see it. So we shall see what happens with this league going forward. No NFL Network, so you won't be seeing that. All right. Everybody, once again, Eli Savoie, great conversation. Hope you enjoyed that. Remember, we're also part of 4-Star Sports Media, so you can check the show out over there. Of course, you can follow me on social media at PJordanSEC. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get the podcast. You can check the show out on YouTube as well. You can email me over at sportstalkphillipjordan@gmail.com and check out all my written work over at Last Word on college football. Everybody has a great weekend with some interesting games. We're in the second half of the year. And on paper, the games don't look great, but hey, we should get some fantastic football games in the United Football League this weekend. Anyways, guys, until next time, bye-bye.